Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome to today's video. We're going to be discussing SOCD inputs on the leverless controller. For my controller, I'll be using the Victrix Pro KO. So make sure before you get started that you're set for the proper input switch. It comes out of the box like this. It's going to basically be up and down should equal neutral, and left and right should equal neutral. But I do recommend updating your firmware and getting your manual to make sure everything is set correctly. And yeah, with that, let's get into it. First, we're going to talk about the benefits of using the SOCD inputs. So one thing would be missing diagonals. Sometimes when you're doing a fireball motion, you may miss diagonals. Might not happen in practice, but it can happen in heated battle. Same with your DP inputs, supers, etc. The other thing we'll discuss is the difference between doing traditional inputs versus SOCD, which is you're going to be holding your inputs rather than press and release. So that's a pretty big difference to get used to. You don't want to release the buttons when you're using SOCD shortcuts until the input is complete. So that takes a little bit of adjustment, but it's worth it. The other thing I want to say is SOCD inputs are fast. If done correctly, they can be very fast. So this is why it's so helpful. With that out of the way, let's get into some examples. Okay, so first we're going to look at the fireball with the jump cancel SOCD input. So normally you do this nice little rolling motion to get your fireball, which is fine. But there's always a chance you can miss your diagonal, especially in the heat of battle. That's where the SOCD shortcut comes in. We're going to go down, down, forward, still holding the buttons, and then up to release to get our fireball input. See that? Now to do the actual fireball, it's down, down, forward. We're going to press up and attack at the same time. Like that. So of course, I did it slow, so you're not going to get the fireball, but slowly speed it up. Slowly. Nice little rolling motion, but holding the buttons. Now, technically, you could go down and then forward, up, and punch at the same time. And most of the time you'll get it. But, you know, there's always a risk that your forward and up and punch could be out of order. So I don't recommend this, except when we're doing super cancels later, which I'll go over because of the leniency of the input buffers. Anyway. Just get used to this little flow, and it's just as easy backwards as it is forwards. Right, so... which is what I love about this. It doesn't matter what direction I'm going in, it's just as easy. Now, for canceling off normals, when it's a standing normal, you might be tempted to just do the rolling, classic rolling motion, which I tend to do still, actually, because you're standing and you're not going to be pressing down, but it's just as easy. If you just get used to it, you're going to press down immediately after you hit the punch button or whatever attack button you're doing, right? So from a standing position. Now from crouching, it's extra easy, I find, because you're already crouching. You don't need to release and press down again. You're just holding down. You hit your attack, then you hit, you know, back, up, and the attack button. So, and you'll get your whatever your attack you're trying to do. In this case, it would be that. So it makes it nice and easy for confirming. So low forward, classic. Practice this. You're holding down the whole time. You're not releasing until you're done. Very, very easy for canceling from normals. Next, we're going to talk about SOCD jump cancel DP. So very similar to the fireball, except instead of going down, forward, it's now going to be forward, down. So again, forward, down, and then jump cancel to get your DP input. See how it creates a forward and then diagonal? So all you're doing, and it's again extremely fast, Again, you're holding the buttons, not releasing until the input is complete. And you get a nice, fast DP. And it's just as easy on the other side. That's the thing I love about this. It's just as easy on the other side. You're not going, you know, and you're destroying your ring finger. Like, it's just a nice little boop. So, yeah. Now, when it comes to canceling it super off of this, it gets a little trickier. So we'll discuss that later. When it comes to canceling from normals, I think it's simple. Just completely reset the input. Doesn't matter if you're crouching or standing. Standing is a little easier because you're already standing and you don't need to release anything. If you're crouching, you do have to release down first. So it takes a little extra time, but it's still easier, in my opinion, than doing this mash with the 2 inputs with your ring finger. It just sucks. So I recommend just getting used to this input completely. And if your character can do a standing jab, then by all means link into your standing jab to get your DP if you have that option. If not, it's still fine. And of course, off of a heavier normal, you have tons of buffer time, so it doesn't matter. Tons of time. But yeah, stick with that for DP inputs. Easy as pie. So next, we are going to get into supers. So in this case, the SOCD inputs are super useful, if you catch my drift. Basically, it's very similar to what we did with the DP and the fireball motions. We are going to be holding down the whole time. But when we do forward and up, we have to release and then do forward, up, and attack at the same time. So it's kind of like down, down, forward, up, release, forward, and up, and then press forward, up, and attack at the same time. That looks like this. So nice and slow, and you'll see these inputs. Nice and slow at first. And you'll usually generally get the fireball, but as we discussed in the fireball tutorial, if you press the buttons at the same time for just the fireball, you may get the buttons out of order. With the super, it doesn't really matter because you can miss one diagonal out of the 2 inputs, 2 quarter circles, and you're fine. So that's why we're doing it this way. Down, down, forward, forward, release, fireball. So just get used to this input. Slowly slow it, speed it up. Very nice. And if you're doing it from standing, of course, you gotta press down first. Just get used to that little roll. So it is important to practice from both situations. And the great thing is, it is just as easy on the other side. In my humble opinion. The whole motion is exactly the same, except you're hitting left instead of right. That's the only difference. Everything else remains the same. That's why I think it's so easy. Next, we're going to talk about special moves canceled into super. So I actually like to treat these independently to keep things consistent. So especially if you're doing a SOCD special, then you want to do your SOCD super completely independent because they're not going to overlap like the classic fireball into super. Like, for example, you know, if you're doing a fireball into super the classic way, the fireball is the first input of your super, right? So you think that this is what we're going to do. There may be still some situations where you prefer to do this, of course, because it's nice and easy. But if I'm doing low forward into fireball and I'm using SOCD, I just prefer to do the super completely independent using the SOCD shortcut because it's so fast and I have so much time for the buffer window. And on the other side, it's nice and easy. You have tons of time. Now, when it comes to the DP, if you're doing a raw DP SOCD, there's not as much time. So this situation doesn't arise too often, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But you can still do it completely independent. Just like that. But if you're doing it from a combo, like say you have even more time. Think about it, because you're doing your DP, you have a little bit early because of the buffer window, which gives you even more time to do your super cancel. So on the other side, they're just independent from one another. It's not too bad. If you do find that difficult, I am going to go over an alternate method shortly. So the other thing to talk about is links. So again, it's for consistency. We're going to do the same thing for a link. So say we did this and we want to link it into super. You're just doing the super completely independent. Again, the full input. So much time. From the other side, there's a lot of time. So this is why I like to do it this way. It's very consistent. I'm pretty much doing my super the same way no matter what. And that's why I prefer it this way. Okay, as promised, here's an alternate method if you don't like doing the full super input independently. I don't really like this method personally because it kind of goes back to the original problem of possibly missing diagonals when you're doing the nice little flow here. But you might find it useful. So if we start on this side, classic input would be for a DP into super would be you walk forward, do your fireball, punch for fireball, and then another fireball kick for your super for Kuma, for example. So here it is. Here's an example. You're just doing a traditional input. You're hiding the fireball input into the super. And there you go. So, you know, again, I don't prefer this method, but in case you want to use it. Now, the difference is, if you're on this side, some people don't like using, you know, their ring finger to do that input. I don't find it too bad, to be honest. But in case you don't want to do that, here is an SOCD shortcut, so you can still use your strong fingers. You hold left, and now you can go right down to get your DP because of the cancel, right? Because you're canceling left with right. So if you hold left the whole time, you can now do the input that way, right? So the exact same input, instead of doing this, you're now doing this, but you're holding right. So it's kind of interesting. I'm not a big fan personally, and I don't practice this, so that's why I'm messing it up. My timings are completely off. But there you have it in case you want to do it. There it is. Okay, next we're going to talk about canceling normals into super. So if you have a lot of hits done on the move, like standing heavy punch, for example, I'm just going to do the super completely independent of the heavy punch and do the super. There's lots of time. Now, if it's going to be a faster button, like maybe a medium punch or a jab, like for example, with I do it off of crouching medium punch quite a bit. This is pretty important. You can do it completely by itself, but it is kind of fast. So it's actually much easier if you use a bit of an old school technique where I'm going to hit the medium punch right before my first quarter circle. So what that looks like is this. Not exactly that, but like this. That's better. So it's like I'm almost screwing up my fireball on purpose by hitting the punch button just a little bit too early, right before I hit up. So for example, I'm holding down. I go forward. Medium punch, then up. And I get this nice input here that I want. I want this input exactly, if you look at that. So then I want to do that. I'm going to release forward and do my final super input, which is going to be forward, up, and punch at the same time. So it'll slow, it's this. Slowly speed it up. Speed it up a little more. And there you have it. On the other side. Nice and easy. Now this also works with jabs because it's quite fast. And from crouching again. Okay, we got the standing input by accident. I'm gonna go over that next actually. So if you chain it with jabs, you can go into your super, so like so. Now, what about standing jabs? Well, that's a bit of a different story. That's going to be a bit more tricky. So for standing jab, we are going to start from crouching again, but we're going to press up and punch at the same time to force to stand. Then we have to press forward. And then we have to press forward, up, and punch. But this time, you got to make sure you're pressing forward just before you press up and punch, because you need that perfect quarter circle for the second input, because the first input's not perfect. So remember what I said earlier about you need at least one perfect quarter circle for your super to come out? Well, the second one has to be perfect. So it'll look something like this if done slow. Those are the inputs you want. But this one is fast and a little tricky to pull off. So just make sure you start slow. And get those nice inputs and then speed it up. A little bit faster. And there you go. Again, there's not a lot of scenarios where you need a standing jab into the super, but in case you do, that's how you do it. In conclusion, that is how I like to do my SOCD inputs. In general, I just stick to the one main method of doing my supers because I find it very versatile, and it just keeps things consistent because there's so many ways to do inputs on a leverless that I can get overwhelming. Find the way you like the best and stick to it. I think this is. It works in so many scenarios. All right. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. And if you want to help me out with the channel, just give a like and subscribe. And stay tuned for more content like this in the future. All right. Till next time, you know the drill. Stay salty.